I am now quite certain that the crimes of this guilty land will never be purged away, but with blood. The final letter of John Brown, whose actions, beliefs, and death would ignite a nation. In his time, the North surged ahead with industrial development and expanding urban life. The South, meanwhile, clung to an economy built on the backs of enslaved people, millions of them, living and dying in silence under the whip. It wasn't silent for long. Abolitionist voices began rising, louder and fiercer, accusing the country of moral hypocrisy. Among the loudest, indeed among the most dangerous, was John Brown. He didn't just speak. He founded what he called the League of Gileadites, an underground alliance dedicated to protecting escaped slaves. He traveled across slaveholding states, mapping out escape routes to the north, sharing them freely with abolitionist groups, risking arrest or worse. Unlike the more moderate abolitionists like Frederick Douglass, Brown believed slavery could only be destroyed through divine justice, delivered at the point of a gun. In the wake of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, the territory of Kansas became a bloody battleground between pro-slavery and anti-slavery settlers. One night in 1856, Brown led a retaliatory raid, brutally executing 5 pro-slavery men in the so-called Pottawatomie Massacre. 3 years later, Brown launched his most daring and desperate operation. With just 22 men, including several of his sons and a handful of black volunteers, he seized the federal armory at Harper's Ferry, Virginia. Brown hoped his actions would inspire a massive slave uprising, but the call never came. Instead, U.S. Marines under Colonel Robert E. Lee stormed the armory. Brown was wounded, captured, and swiftly sentenced to death. In the South, Brown was branded a lunatic and a terrorist. In the North, something different happened. While many rejected his methods, abolitionists increasingly saw him as a martyr. Ralph Waldo Emerson declared that Brown would make the gallows as glorious as the cross. Church bells tolled at the hour of his execution. Cannons were fired in tribute, and a song began to spread, John Brown's Body, a battle hymn sung by thousands as they marched into war. Even Abraham Lincoln, a careful opponent of slavery and no fan of armed insurrection, acknowledged Brown touched the moral nerve of the nation. His death stripped away any illusions that compromise could prevent it. John Brown forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. Can violence ever be justified in the pursuit of justice? Was he a visionary ahead of his time, or a fanatic who invited chaos? Would slavery have ended without men like him forcing the nation to choose? The raid on Harper's Ferry didn't just fail, it exploded. It ripped open the fragile fabric holding the Union together. Within a year, South Carolina seceded. The war that Brown had predicted, the blood price of slavery, was upon the nation. He died on the gallows, but lived on in song, in legend, and in the unhealed wounds of a country torn between freedom and oppression. Thank you for watching.